Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking in light of the grounding of MV Pentalina and any impact on ferry services to and from Orkney.
Minister Kevin Stewart.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And firstly, I'd like to express thanks to the RNLI, Emergency Services and the crew for their work on Saturday evening. Ministers were kept informed throughout, and I met with Orkney Islands Council on Sunday to discuss further. Northlink proactively contacted hauliers at the time of the incident to ensure that essential goods could be delivered to Orkney, and I thank them for their action. We await detail from Pentland Ferries on the length of any outage. Transport Scotland met with Northlink over the weekend to discuss what potential increases in capacity may be needed on services to Orkney. We do, of course, also await the outcome of any investigation and actions to prevent any reoccurrence, and we need these answers as soon as possible.
Liam McArthur.
Thank you. And can I echo the Minister in paying tribute to RNLI, the emergency services, the Pentalina captain and crew, as well as the local community in St Margaret's Hope for the part they played in responding to events on Saturday evening with calm professionalism and generosity. While it will take time for the full facts to emerge about what led the Pentalina to be grounded, it's obviously in the public interest for answers to be provided as quickly as possible. Meantime, as we enter the busiest time of the year, Orkney is set to be without ferry provision on a key route for both passengers and freight over the coming weeks. So will the Minister therefore agree to approve a temporary resumption of 4 return sailings on the Stromness to Scrabster route, as occurred when the MV Alfred was out of service last year?
Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I thank Mr McArthur for his question. As I said in my original answer, Northlink Ferries have already been proactive in reaching out to hauliers and are monitoring capacity available across their routes. As Mr McArthur is well aware, from Monday there are 3 return trips from Scrabster to Stromness, and we will continue to engage with Northlink Ferries on other options available and also keep in close contact with Orkney Islands Council about these issues. Mr McArthur rightly pointed out that during a previous incident, 4 return journeys were put in place between Scrabster and Stromness. We will continue to monitor all of this, and if necessary, we will consider moving towards that 4th return service to ensure that Orkney Islanders are served well.
Liam McArthur.
Thank you. Of course, the MV Pentalina was brought back into service due to the Scottish Government's desperation to plug gaps on the west coast by chartering MV Alfred. This provides yet another reminder of the lack of resilience within the overall ferry network across Scotland due to the Government's lack of investment in new ferries over the past 15 years. So what specific action is the Minister planning to take to ensure that islanders and island communities in Orkney and elsewhere in Scotland do not continue to pay the price for the Government's calamitous mishandling of ferry provision in this country?
Minister.
The Government are investing heavily in ferry services and as members will be aware, we have in order 6 ferries for the network, which is important as we move forward. I heard Mr McArthur on the radio yesterday talking about Pentalina being rushed back into service, and he suggested that there was pressure put on the MCA to do so. Can I put on the record that we are not aware of any pressure being put on the MCA, certainly not by CalMac or ministers who would not be directly involved in that engagement. And given their role in rightly strictly enforcing maritime safety, it's doubtful that the MCA would succumb to any pressures. What we need to do is to wait and see what the investigation by the Maritime Accident Investigation Branch comes up with. And as I said previously, we want to ensure that we get these answers as soon as possible. But as members are aware, the Maritime Accident Investigation Branch and the MCA are governed by the UK Government in reserve powers and do not answer to Scottish ministers.
Jamie Halcrow-Johnston.
Thank you. Can the Minister be very clear? If the MV Alfred can't return, the Pentalina is delayed getting back into service, there isn't the option of a replacement vessel, and capacity can't be increased adequately via Northlink. Where does that leave residents and businesses on Orkney as we enter the peak season? And how will the Scottish Government compensate our islands for the loss of this vital route and the passenger and freight capacity it carries?
Minister.
It's too early to say whether there's an immediate need to consider bringing Alfred back into the Orkney service. And as I said to the leader of Orkney Islands Council, Councillor James Stockin, on Sunday, we will monitor to see what is happening in terms of the 3 return services that are in place. And if there is a requirement, we will look to move to that 4th service that was put in place previously when there was a difficulty with MV Alfred previously. The terms and conditions of the charter of MV Alfred are a commercial matter between CalMac and Pentland Ferries. There is no recall clause within the terms of the contract, which was a commercial decision made by Pentland Ferries as part of its discussions with CalMac. But as I've said previously, Presiding Officer, I will, the Government will, continue to monitor all of this as we go forward to ensure that the Orkney Islands are well served.
Graham Simpson.
Thank you. Does the Minister regret describing the situation for islanders as not brilliant? Would it be more appropriate to say it was disastrous?
Minister.
What I would say is not brilliant. The antonym of brilliant is gloomy, and I recognise that for some the situation is gloomy. So not brilliant, gloomy is exactly what it is for some folks. I've spoken to folks in Orkney. I recognise the difficulties that there are here. That is why I spoke to Orkney Islands Council at the earliest possible opportunity to ensure that we get this right for islanders as we move forward. And I will continue that engagement with Orkney Islands Council and others to ensure that we get this right. And I once again pay tribute to Northlink for their efforts in contacting hauliers very, very quickly indeed to make sure that capacity was in place. But we will monitor and we will act accordingly.